Hey, a little nervous about this one. I don't know why. Let's do this. They say that our purpose is a reflection of our pain, but more than that, I feel like it's an opportunity for us to help someone else avoid that same pain or move through it with more ease than we did. So, in this video, I'm sharing a story around it's just a personal story. We're doing story time. A real deal story time. I'm sharing a story that even my closest friends probably don't know the fullness of, but that's just because it doesn't come up easily in regular conversation, or pieces of it come up more organically in conversation. I've only shared the whole story in its fullness in one place, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Um yeah. So a lot of this has to do, like I said, with purpose. Why did I choose to work as a marriage coach? What was I trying to do? And the reason that I'm sharing and the story that I'm sharing is beneficial to others, but probably a very selfish reason for myself in terms of how it makes me feel and how it heals the little girl in me. And make no mistake, I don't feel like purpose is this one necessarily is this one thing, or that purpose is tied to what it is that you do for a living. I do think it can be. I do think that what you do can feel like it's pulling on you or calling to you, and that's part of your purpose here. That feels like you are aligned with it. It feels like this is what you're supposed to be doing. It feels like you are truly making an impact for other people, that's making a ripple impact in their lives. And yeah, this is not my finest or best moment, but let's get into it. Story time. Okay, so lean in. This is like real story time, like when you were young and then you came into the circle and you sat down crisscross applesauce and the teacher like showed you this is what we're going to read today, and then you sat down and you listened to the story. This is real deal Holyfield story time. So I'm pulling this from the one place that I've shared this. I was part of an anthology. I had a chapter. I shared the story in that chapter, in my particular chapter in the anthology. And these are a few excerpts and snippets from that anthology. So here goes. It was like I blacked out, as if I, 9 months pregnant and ready to pop any day, was watching myself make moves from above with no way to control what was happening. My iced herbal tea went flying, and I couldn't even remember when I let it go. Our living room had become a movie scene. Hands and arms were flailing, the cacophony of shouting and confusion filled the air. Everything happened so fast, and yet it all seemed to be happening in slow motion. Honestly, it was a blur. All I knew was that I had leapt from the couch, round and plump, to pull my parents away from each other before they could embrace. I didn't want them to hug, especially not then. But let's rewind the story back just a bit. I want to pause there and just reliving that moment, not my best moment, not my finest. I definitely don't have a huge recollection of it. My biggest recollection is of my husband coming and carrying me out of my own living room while I'm basically 9 months pregnant. And it was just wild and visceral and emotional. And I I thought about doing this particular video, talking about purpose, why I do what I do, where that came from for me, because I saw this video of this woman who's a therapist who said she became a therapist because her dad died when she was 22 and it had such a huge impact on her. And because it had a huge impact on her, she wanted to help other people process their pain, basically, right? I'm paraphrasing what she said, but ultimately, she wanted to help other people process their pain. And I help people communicate and connect in their relationships. And this story is part of why. In that moment, don't feel great about that at all, but it was really real and really raw for me at that time. So, a little context. It was November 2015, and I was pregnant with my first child. This was a big deal for my family, not just because it was the first grandchild, but because it was coming off the heels of my first miscarriage. And I was a mixture of anxious stomach knots and utter excitement about becoming a mother. And my own mother had come to support me on my journey, staying with me from my last month of pregnancy until my daughter Sovereign was 4 years old. I mean, 4 months old. Girl, I wish. 4 months old. However, the end of my pregnancy was met with news that shook up my life in a way that I could never expected. It was then that my parents divorced. And since I'm sure you're wondering why I put it in air quotes, it's because I consider myself a twice child of divorce. My parents actually divorced, no quotations, when I was 18. My mother told me on a family weekend visit to see me my freshman year of college, and I wasn't surprised or fazed by this decision. In fact, I was glad that they had finally decided to split up officially. They had been living like roommates for as long as I could remember at that point, and I had already cried all the tears that I felt I was going to cry. I had laid stomach down on that green plush carpet in our hallway, listening to them throw words at each other like daggers more times than I could count. I was tired too. And besides, I was off to college, so their distance could no longer take up space in my world anymore. I say I'm a twice child of divorce because I more context, right? Is because that moment in that first part that I shared came on the heels of my parents uh finding friendship after their official divorce. 2 years after the divorce, they actually became friends. They hung out. They, could be around the family together. We were doing family gatherings like never before, even when they were married. We were doing normal things like going grocery shopping as a family. They would visit me and my husband as a family before we had kids. And they were friends for 8 years. And for 8 years, the grown up in me, because now I'm in my I'm in my 20s. I'm in my like early 20s into me being almost 30. My parents were in a state in their relationship that I had never experienced as a child, and I was relishing in it as an adult. And then my dad d- decided he was going to remarry. The details around that were quick. A lot of it was quiet. It was kind of a shock. It wasn't very forthcoming. It felt like we didn't really see that coming, and it tore my parents apart. And so then they ended that friendship that they had had and that I had enjoyed for 8 years. And this is when I say they divorced again. And this is why I say I'm a twice child of divorce, because this divorce I felt at 30. I felt it at 30, pregnant with my first child. I felt it. And all of the things that they talk about kids feel as a child of divorce, I was feeling it as an adult of divorce at that point. And I could also blame the hormones for everything that was happening too with me, because I was pregnant when all of this was going down. But I just remember feeling like the rug was ripped out from under me. And that's what happened for me in that moment. My parents, who were now no longer speaking to each other after 8 years of not even just them being cordial, literally friendship and joy and good times and fun times, they were in my living room and they were having a disagreement. And I'm sitting there pregnant and I just could not handle it, because at some point my mom had asked for a hug and I just didn't want that to be the case. And I want to share what my reflection was in that moment. So skip, the hug. At the time, I didn't know why the attempted hug triggered me so much. In hindsight, the request felt like a moment of desperation and pity. It all felt fake. For 8 years, my parents had something that felt real to me. And in that instant, I felt it had been reduced to a figment of my imagination. It wasn't a hug born of healing or a tearful goodbye. It was not a heartfelt punctuation after finding resolution through transition. It was something else, a human moment, a need for touch and comfort that felt like it would not change anything. Looking back, whatever it was to me at that time, I regret robbing them of that moment with what was basically the outburst of my inner child. I wanted to simply blame it on my pregnancy hormones, but at 30 years old, I had to come to grips with the fact that this time, this divorce, I had to give myself time to mourn the loss of my parents' relationship. Like them, I had to heal. The truth is, I had tried countless times to repair my parents' relationship as a child. I was a middle school peer conflict mediator, so in my young mind, if I can get a group of 9-year-olds to see each other's point of view at recess, I could help my parents too, but I couldn't. If their marriage was going to be repaired, it would have had to be because they were working to better understand themselves and each other with grace and honesty that didn't intentionally bite. Because that's essentially what marriage is, an opportunity to gain a heightened state of awareness of self, your spouse, and as a result, your marriage as a whole. Because marriage ain't easy. I mean, it's a lifelong commitment to someone who is going to be changing, growing, and struggling through life while you are also changing, growing, and sometimes struggling through life. For me, I tried. And that's why for the official divorce, I felt okay. But it wasn't my place to try. And my parents let me know that, as parents should. It wasn't my place to fix what was going on with them. That was their responsibility. But as a child, I didn't quite understand that. I wanted to see what I could do to help to fix this. And in hindsight, my parents told me that I could see things, right? I could see things between them, see things that were misunderstood, and that even as a youngster, I was bridging some understanding and some gaps. It just wasn't enough, which is interesting, right? Foreshadowing what my gift was going to be, and that thing was going to show up later purposefully in the work that I was doing. And I I felt, I think at some point, that I could have been helpful as a child. And then I kind of let go of it, especially when I went off to college, because again, I'm doing my own thing. But I felt some pain in that first divorce. But it was just spread out over time. I had felt the pain that accumulates prior to the divorce, all the things that happen before two people make that decision to go their separate ways, even after they built a life together. I was the child. I was the little girl. I was watching it. I was seeing it. I was hearing it. I was sneaking sometimes to see it and watch it and hear it because I was like, what's going on? It was like the more information I got, maybe the more I could understand, the more I could figure something out to help them, the more I could make sure that I wasn't part of the problem. You know, the kid stuff that we do when we see that. And I was feeling the energy of what was going on for years until that point when I went off to college. And so I have an empathy for the pain of the child observing and feeling and seeing and hearing in that space, even when I am working with couples, when I see parents who are also couples, who are also individual people going through it, I feel something for them because I understand that as someone who is married, but I feel for the children. 99% of the couples that I have been blessed and privileged to work with over the years have had children in the home. The other 1%, the majority of them, they wanted children, but they couldn't fathom having children in the state of the relationship as it was. And after the coaching experience, after that journey, I know many of them had children, multiples, some of them had children because they felt like, okay, now we have built a foundation on which we can grow, we can build something that feels like it works and something that feels good. We all deserve to feel good in our relationships. That does not mean we're always going to be happy. That does not mean we're always going to agree, but as a whole, the breadth of our relationship should make us feel good, should make us feel aligned, should make us feel like, hey, you my person, even if you question that sometimes, like what in the, because we're going through some stuff, but we go through them and we come back and we anchor back to why this person, why did I choose this person, why did they choose me, how do we support each other through this thing so that we can get to the other side most likely stronger because now you've been through the thing. So I see and I feel the children in the household, even as I get to help the couple on their journey because they're the foundation of the family. That's why I said the reason is selfish. That's why I said in the beginning of this that we get an opportunity when we have gone through a certain pain, discomfort. If we lean into it, some of us get the opportunity to help other people avoid that kind of pain and or move through that pain with more ease. And when I'm working with a couple, I'm also thinking about the children because I'm thinking about myself. I read it from my chapter, these snippets, because I took a lot of time to write this. Okay, I did not use AI to help me. Okay, I'm I write, so I wrote it, and it took time to really be able to articulate my thoughts. And I don't think that I could have said it better off the cuff. So, final thought on that. Till death do us part wasn't in the cards for my parents. But for the couples for whom it is, they just need some support in getting there. I've made it my mission to help them create a relationship legacy they are excited to show their children. I do it for them, for their children, and if I'm being real, for the little girl in me with the twice divorced parents. Yeah, I, for a while, wish things could be different, but perhaps that was their lot in life and it was also mine. And it showed me something and it ignited something in me. And in this space of my life, right, that was in my early 30s, now I'm in my 40s, to be able to look back on that time and say, it all led to this. And if you look back on your life, you can probably pinpoint these moments where, like, at the time, this really sucked. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. And yet, when I look back on it now, in my 30s, in my 40s, in my 50s, in this season in my life, wherever, whatever age you're in, you're like, I needed to do that. I needed to move through that. I needed to see that, to feel that, to experience that in order for me to help this person right here. In order for me to have a level of insight and empathy and understanding to be like, I can help this person right here, then this person over here. Something that I say, some experience that I'm sharing, some insight that I have, some lessons that I've learned and that I can impart is going to help somebody else. Many things may help that person. I am under no delusion that I'm the only reason that, someone got helped with their relationship in terms of communication and connection. I am a, a rung in the wheel. I am part of the whole. I get to be a part of that journey. And they're doing the real work, the real intentional work, because I'm not married to them. I'm just alongside them in this journey for that season. But I know that I know. I was gonna say I was trying to backtrack from knowing to maybe I feel or I think, nah, I feel like I'm backtracking. So I'm gonna go back to saying I know that without that experience, without the pain of that, without the healing of that, without the hurt of that, I don't know if I don't believe I would have the fullness of supporting couples and families the way that I'm able to do, coupled with what I feel is a God given gift around hearing what other people don't hear, hearing what's between the lines of what people are saying, bridging gaps for couples that feel like they've run out of hope or options. I needed that. And I also needed to be aware of it, and I also needed to process it. And you might be in a similar state. I invite you and encourage you to think about a time in which you went through something and later it actually became exactly what you needed. If you feel like writing the story down, let me know in the comments. If you want to give me the highlights, I would love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, if it resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. If conversations like these around how we can have relationship with self that feels good, a relationship with others that feel good, how we can delve into our own growth and elevation in this life. If that's your vibe, please subscribe. I'm Imani Aieshah. I'm here right now making videos every single day for 100 straight days on YouTube, pushing myself, seeing what I am capable of, trusting myself and my voice, because I don't script these videos. I don't know. I don't even have like 7 things planned out that I'm going to talk about this week. I literally wake up, I listen, I feel into what makes sense and what I feel like I can talk about that day. I might jot a few notes down right before I press record, and then I press record and I have this conversation with you. And so I'm enjoying the journey. I'm having to trust my voice in this way and trust that something that I am saying is something that someone else on the other side of the screen, like you, is supposed to hear, needs to hear, wants to hear, feels good about hearing. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, because that is hard to come by these days. You've gotten this far. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening, and I will see you tomorrow.